Ms. Shackelford, are you ready to go ahead and call your next witness?
He's on his way in the building, Judge.
Okay.
And Your Honor, just for tomorrow, are we going to figure out how to get the videos and?
Oh, you know what? I'll, as you,
I'm putting in an interrogation and some videos tomorrow and slides that I'll need to go through with a witness.
well, and my comment is that if it's not on, if you can just do it on I gotta talk to Fred and see if we can get.
You need them now?
Yeah, if you go get him while we're waiting.
I just want to make sure defense counsel can all see it.
Right. So what is it that is it on a drive? What is it on?
I have it on, I can do it we've got it in 10 million places. I could put it on my hard drive. I don't know if it's possible to connect that. We could bring a laptop over there and just, I have a dongle. We can plug it into we should be able to plug in somewhere.
Come on out, sir. Can you raise your right hand? Solemnly swear or affirm testimony you'll give in this matter will be the truth, so help you God.
Yes, Your Honor.
Have a seat. Yeah, when I get him, we'll talk about it in a second. Go ahead, Ms. Shackelford.
Good afternoon, sir. Can you state your name, please?
Curtis Ray Meadows III.
Mr. Meadows, I want to take you back to 2017. In 2017, did you know a woman by the name of Egypt Covington?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and can you tell me how it was you knew her?
She was my girlfriend.
And can you tell me in 2017 when you started dating Miss Covington?
Approximately maybe April.
Okay. Did you know that she had been in a previous relationship with an individual named Kenny Mihalik?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know Kenny Mihalik?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Have you ever seen or heard anything? Have you ever witnessed any interaction or argument between Miss Covington and Kenny Mihalik?
Argument, yes.
Okay, and can you tell me where that occurred?
That was at the Strawberry Festival, approximately a week prior to her death.
Okay, and can you tell me what was the nature of the argument?
I couldn't tell you. I wasn't a witness to that of what was actually said. Egypt said afterwards is something.
Okay, well, I don't want you to tell me what Egypt said.
Okay.
Okay.
No.
But were you present and did you see Mr. Mihalik interact with Miss Covington in any way? Did he approach her?
He approached our group that I was with.
Okay.
Other than that, she intervened. It looks like he was there to approach me, not her.
Okay. And when Miss Covington, you said she intervened, did she direct him away from where you were?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you hear anything about the interaction between Miss?
I did not personally hear anything.
Okay.
No,
and aside from seeing or witnessing that instance, have you seen or heard any other arguments or disputes between the two of them?
no, ma'am.
Okay. And sir, so in June of 2017, you were in a dating relationship with Miss Covington?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Were there any plans coming up in the future between the two of you?
We were gonna move in together.
Okay. And when you say you're going to move in together, who was moving to whose location?
I was gonna move in with her in her location, her residence.
And do you know where that residence was?
Yes, it's in Hall Road.
Okay. And was this a duplex?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And before, well, let me just ask you, in general, in 2017, did you frequent that duplex?
Not frequent, no.
Were you familiar with Stephen Edwards?
Not really, no, ma'am.
Okay. Did you know he lived next door?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Did you ever interact with him?
No, ma'am. Maybe a high and by, that's the extent.
Okay. And do you know if Egypt had a phone at the time?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Do you know if she had more than one phone?
She had a personal and a work phone.
Okay. And do you know what the phone number was for the personal phone?
Yes, ma'am.
What was it?
730-7090.
Okay.
734 area code.
Okay, thank you. And do you recall, sir, permission to approach her?
You're,
Ongoing?
Go ahead.
Okay. It's habit. Sir, I'm going to show you what's marked as People's Proposed 42. Do you recognize this photograph?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you tell me, what's the photograph of?
It's a photo of Egypt looking at her phone.
Okay. And do you know who took this photo?
I did.
All right. And do you know how close in proximity this photo was taken to June 22nd?
It was in May.
Okay, so it would have been in May of 2017?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And do you see something in Miss Covington's hand there?
Her phone.
All right.
Personal.
Was that her personal or work phone?
Personal phone.
All right. And did you see her get a new personal phone after you took this photograph?
No, ma'am.
Did she continue to have this phone?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And this photo accurately depicts the photo you took back in May of 2017?
Yes, ma'am.
Move to admit People's Proposed Exhibit 42.
No objection for exam purposes.
For whatever it's worth. I mean,
it's what?
Same.
And let me ask you, prior to learning of Miss Covington's death, when was the last time you had seen her?
That would have been Thursday morning, the 20th.
Did she stay with you on the night of the 21st?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So on the 22nd of June, did you part ways in the morning?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And this was kind of a new relationship, right?
I mean, yes.
All right. Had you dated previously?
Previously, yes.
Okay. Do you know approximately when you dated previously?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Was it years before 2017?
Yes, ma'am.
And so she leaves in the morning. Did you leave in the morning as well?
Yes, ma'am. To
All right.
work. We both parted ways to work.
And after you parted ways, did you continue to have any contact with Miss Covington?
We text and I believe called as well throughout that day.
All right. And so it's kind of a fresh love. Were the two of you texting and talking
Yes,
basically
ma'am.
every day?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And when was the last time you communicated with her on June 22nd?
Approximately a little after 10 p.m.
Okay. Was it
That's via text.
through text? Okay. And what was that text about?
Sweet dreams.
All right. And did she respond?
Yes.
All right. And after that, did you go to bed?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. The next morning, did you have any contact with Miss Covington on that day?
The 23rd?
Correct. Thank you.
No, ma'am.
All right. Did you attempt to have contact with her on the 23rd?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. When did you start trying to communicate with her?
Approximately quarter after 7 in the morning.
Okay. Did she respond?
No, ma'am.
All right. Did you continue to try and communicate with her throughout that day?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. What did you do on that day?
I went to work.
Okay.
I had a meeting that morning, but I still continued to try to reach out to her, and I went through my normal work day to about 4:30. Then I picked up my daughter, and we had a late dinner, or a late Father's Day dinner, sorry.
Okay. Do you know approximately what time you had dinner with your daughter?
I went and picked her up, went back to my house, and then went to, probably got there maybe 6:30-ish p.m. at the restaurant.
All right. And after
Six,
you,
yeah.
sorry, is that an approximation?
Yeah, it's approximately.
All right.
Definitely.
And after you have dinner with your daughter, during all of this, while you're at work and while you're having dinner with your daughter, are you texting Miss Covington?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you calling Miss Covington?
Yes, ma'am.
Any response?
No, ma'am.
So after you have dinner with your daughter, what do you do next?
I dropped her off at her mother's house.
And what'd you do from there?
I drove.
Your Honor, I hate to interrupt, but I really don't see the relevance of this, given the nature of the charges here and the timeline that we know the prosecutor's going to present. What is the relevance of all this?
Ms. Shackelford?
Well, Your Honor, I think it's highly relevant. He is indicating that there's no communication with her on the day of the 23rd, which is indicative of something, I'm sure. And then we have him going to the home. He's actually the person who called 911. He's the person who
I
found the
mean,
body.
then go ahead and
Thank you.
and move it along to
So-
when he showed up at the house.
So you go to Ms. Covington's residence?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and when you get to the residence, what do you do when you get there?
When I pull in the driveway, I noticed that the entrance to the complex doors is wide open, and then as I'm walking up, I see that her door personally had was open maybe 4 or 5 inches, like left open or cracked, I guess you could say, open.
All right,
Left
so
open, yeah.
did you see her car there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you come up, we'll call it the exterior doors wide open, right? And then you see her door cracked.
Yes.
Did you notice if the other door was open or cracked?
No, ma'am.
And so do you go inside the apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and what happens when you go inside the apartment?
Can I take a second?
Yes.
I screamed her name, and her dog Ruby let out a yelp, and I stepped in, and Ruby greeted me during the first step, and turned away quickly as in to follow me, and by then I followed. It was into the kitchen and maybe just another step or two and into the living room, and that's where Egypt was laying.
Was she responsive at all?
No,
Did you notice if she had any injuries to her?
I could see blood. See, she was tied, and
And what was she tied with?
at that time it was just I said like decoration lights.
Okay. Christmas lights?
Yeah.
Okay. And after you find her and she's not responsive, sir, I'm sorry, sir, I know these are hard. What did you do next?
I ran out. My phone was left in my personal vehicle. I retrieved that and called 911.
Okay. And did you stay on scene there?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you there when police arrived?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you talk to police at the scene?
Yes, ma'am.
1 second, Judge. I have no further questions.
Ms. Joseph?
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Ma'am.
Mr. Meadows, you don't know Timothy Moore, do you?
No, ma'am.
And you've never seen my client anywhere
No, ma'am.
before? And you've never heard Miss Covington mention the name Timothy Moore?
No, ma'am.
Vic, I think you described Mr. Moore as someone, the type of people that Miss Covington wouldn't have associated with, right?
Yes, ma'am. I believe I said that.
What time did you arrive at Miss Covington's house?
We're after 7 p.m.
I'm sorry, was that 7:15?
Yeah, around
Okay.
there.
And what time did Van Buren Police Department arrive?
Within minutes.
Okay. Did you have the key code to Ms. Covington's front door?
She told me, but I didn't recall. I think maybe weeks prior we were going somewhere and she told me as I had to pick something up, but I don't recall it.
And it was your intention to move in with Ms. Covington very shortly, or soon around the time of her death, right?
I still had a couple months left on my lease.
And when you walked into Ms. Covington's home, the TV was still on, right?
I don't recall that, ma'am.
There was some marijuana sitting on the table in the living room. Do you recall that?
No, ma'am.
Do you recall if there was a curtain rod hanging up over the back door?
Ma'am.
The night of June 22nd, 2017, were you by yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
And where were you at?
At home.
And at what time did you arrive home that night?
I went right after work, so maybe 5:30 p.m.
Okay. And did you stay at home all night?
I left to go get Chinese food.
And what city did you get Chinese food in?
Like half a mile down the road.
Did you go anywhere else that night?
No, ma'am.
Ms. Shackelford asked you some questions about the Strawberry Festival and the argument that you witnessed between Ms. Covington and Kenny. That was a week before Ms. Covington's death, right?
I believe it was a week, yes, ma'am.
And it's your understanding that Kenny knew that you were going to be moving in with Ms. Covington, right?
I believe so.
And was that decided right around the time of the Strawberry Festival?
I couldn't tell you.
Isn't it true that you thought that Kenny was stalking Ms. Covington?
I wouldn't say stalking is the word I used.
Would you agree that you thought he was following her around?
No.
No? Okay. So if you told police officers that he was following her around and showing up multiple times unannounced during your statement, would that be accurate?
I didn't say multiple times. He did show up at my residence once.
And that time that he showed up at your residence, that was to check on her sunroof to see if it was, because it was raining, right?
That's what I was told.
But you agree that he did show up unannounced on at least one occasion where Miss Covington was at?
He was there, yeah.
Okay, so he showed up and he was uninvited. He wasn't invited to your house that day, right?
He didn't show up at my house. He was in the parking lot.
Okay, so he showed up at the parking lot of your house near her car, but he was uninvited that day, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're aware that Kenny helped take care of her dog,
Yes, ma'am.
right? And you're aware that he had been to her house quite a few times during that time frame in 2017, right?
Yes, ma'am.
In your conversations with Ms. Covington about moving in with each other, was there anything that you talked about with her that she or you wanted to change about the house?
I don't recall. I mean, other than just straight like tidying up, we didn't make no renovation plans, I guess.
Okay, and the house in general usually had quite a few things kind of laying out, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you and Ms. Covington joke about the fact that she had some Christmas lights hanging up year round?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so it was never something you and her talked about, maybe taking down or moving or cleaning up? Nothing further, Judge.
Mr. Goldstein,
Oh, Your Honor.
Ms. Watt, anything?
I just have a few questions. Good afternoon, Mr. Meadows.
Good afternoon.
Now, you indicated that the last text that you exchanged with Ms. Covington was around 10 o'clock p.m.?
Roughly.
Okay, and you sent her the text or she sent you the text?
I think we were going back and forth. Like I said, I went and got Chinese, and after I ate, I basically said I was going to bed.
Okay, and is it your testimony that she responded to your saying you were going to bed?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was her response, if you recall?
Well, I said nighty night. She said sweet dreams.
Okay. And so then you've indicated there's a period of time where there's no texting or calling between you, correct?
Correct.
And then you go to her home the following morning. You've indicated at about 7:15.
Excuse me. I didn't go to her at 7:15 p.m.
PM, I'm sorry. You went to her home at 7:15 PM.
Friday the
Okay.
23rd.
Friday the 23rd. Sorry about that. That's what I meant to say. And when you arrive at the home, you've indicated that the first door is open, wide open.
Yes, ma'am.
And how do you open that first door? Is that with a key or with a code?
I believe it's never closed.
Okay, so it's your,
From the
I'm sorry.
few times I was there, it was always been open. The main entrance to the duplex, double door, but individual doors.
It's always open? Is that your
As far
testimony?
as I recall, yes.
Okay, so you don't recall there being any mechanism on that door for locking or putting in a code?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And you've indicated that you walk in and the door to her section of the duplex is ajar. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that the door that you need the key, that you need a code to open,
Yes, ma'am.
correct?
Yes.
Now, you've described to us what you observed when you entered the residence. I'm not going to ask you to describe that again, but do you know how long it took you to make those observations?
Seconds.
Seconds?
Split second.
And then it's your testimony that you leave the duplex and you immediately go to your car.
As I'm exiting, I do almost a half knock on the duplex to the neighbor's duplex. And as I was doing it, in my thought, I was probably said, yeah, honestly, they're dead too. And in my mind, I was thinking that like something happened to them and I ran to my vehicle. So yeah, I might have maybe a half second as I stopped out her entrance of her duplex,
And then it's,
ran to my truck. And
Okay. So you knock, but you don't gain entry to that duplex across the hall.
I don't believe I even knocked.
Okay. All right, and so then you go to your car and do you immediately call the police?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you've also described being, where you were present at the Strawberry Festival, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you've indicated that Kenny does he try to approach you?
Yes, I believe he was approaching me
Okay, why do you say that?
because he was engaging eye contact with me and no one else. Even though Egypt was kind of off to the side, he approached in my direction before Egypt got up, stood up.
Okay, so he was walking towards you. Would that
Correct.
be fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
And then did she get in between the two of you?
I mean, I stayed sitting down. She just stood up and intervened really quickly, and she escorted him, or walked him to a different area of the tent, you would say.
Okay, so she gets up from her seated position and takes him to another location.
Yes, ma'am.
And so were you able to observe or see what was going on between the two of them at the other location?
No, ma'am.
Did you see him after he had been escorted to the other location? Did you ever have any contact with him again after that?
No, ma'am.
The Strawberry Festival, there's a lot of people there. Is it pretty crowded?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This gentleman that approached you, he didn't come there with you, did he?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So you're at a Strawberry Festival. Are there hundreds of people there, thousands of people?
I would say hundreds for sure.
Okay, there are
Maybe about-
hundreds of people
yeah.
there. And when is the first time that you see this person approaching you?
How long was I there before he approached?
Yes.
20, 30 minutes.
So you're at this festival for approximately 20 to 30 minutes, and then does he just show up and start walking towards you? Is that pretty much how it happened?
He knew I was there. I believe when I went to, I know when I bought some refreshments, he was with a group of acquaintances we both know, and I was talking with them, and I noticed him off in the corner, and we locked eyes. I bought my refreshments, and then I sat down with the people I was there with, and then from there, maybe 20 minutes or so.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand this. You initially see him in a different location
Same.
other than the area where he approached you?
50 feet,
Okay,
30 feet.
so you see him approximately 50 feet away, you make eye contact.
I mean, yeah, we made eye contact.
You didn't say anything to him, he didn't say anything to
No, ma'am.
you. You then go to sit down,
My
and then
group.
he comes over to where you are and starts walking towards you. Would that be fair to say?
Say so, yes, ma'am.
You've described did you have an encounter with him when he showed up in the parking lot, or
No, ma'am.
you were not there?
No, I was there. I noticed him out my window.
Okay,
There was nothing said or words. I don't believe he even knew I'd seen him.
okay. What did you notice him doing out your window?
The time I seen, he just looked in the vehicle, then got in his vehicle and took off.
Are you speaking of Miss Covington's vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
He was looking inside of her vehicle?
I believe, or glaring at it. I mean, I don't know if he was peering in. He was just looking at it at the time I seen him, and then just turned around and got into his vehicle.
Had you given him your address or where you live?
No, ma'am.
Had you had contact with him on any other occasions other than the two that you described?
No, ma'am.
And when was it that he came to your parking lot? If you recall.
I couldn't recall.
Okay, was it 2017?
If I'd say something, it'd be, I believe so. It wasn't any times. It was months, maybe. He just, I don't really, or a couple months, I don't recall.
Okay. All right, I have no further questions.
Ms. Shackelford, anything else for this witness?
No, Your Honor.
You can go with, Officer Garcia and you're free to leave. Ms. Shackelford, your next witness, is it Officer Rennie?
No, Your Honor, before I call him, I'm going to call, yes, I'm gonna call Sergeant Craig McDonald.
Okay.
Excuse me, Your Honor. My client actually has a medical condition, so he needs to go to the.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. Ken?
You told him. Yeah, you do. Yeah. He's got enough. Right.
Sergeant, If you can raise your right hand, solemnly swear affirm testimony you'll give in this matter will be the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Go ahead and have a seat. We're gonna wait just a second. You actually, since you're seated, we're all social distance. If you want to take it off, you can. It's your preference.
What, has he been sworn in? John?
He has.
Okay, thank you. Sir, can you state your name and employment capacity for me?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Detective Sergeant Craig McDonald. I'm a detective with the Michigan State Police.
Okay, and have you been involved in the investigation that we're here in court about today?
Yes.
Okay, and specifically, Sergeant McDonald, did you have contact and interview an individual by the name of Nicole Dillard?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and can you tell me, where did that interview take place?
It took place at her residence in Toledo, Ohio. Address is 671 Door Street.
No further questions.
Joseph, anything?
Just briefly, and good afternoon. Sergeant McDonald, did you play a role in providing information to the FBI for some cell phone analysis?
Yes.
Okay, and it's my understanding you gave certain location information to the FBI for cell phone analysis, right?
I wouldn't say my function was to give that information. I mean, I was in the middle of the investigation of that information. It may have literally gone through my email to the FBI agent. That's about the best I can tell you there.
Okay. Did you give the FBI agent a certain Judd Road address?
Again, I may have. There was a Judd Road address that was involved in his analysis, and it may have passed through my email to him. I work with him on a daily basis, so I do talk to him frequently.
And is it typical for you to give him certain locations and then him to use the locations that you give him?
I guess so, for various purposes, sure.
Okay. And is it common when you're engaging in this cell phone analysis reports that he creates, is it common for you to give him the locations where you think things happened at?
Not to him, not that portion. There's other things we would do with the location we think something happened at before it would go to him.
Okay. If he's going to create a cell phone analysis report, though, is it you who gives him the locations where, for example, an alleged crime scene would occur?
Usually that's going to, literally it's going to come from, some source like, say, a phone company, from phone records. Now, I may obtain those records and then give the records to him for the analysis.
I think what you're asking is, does he go to ping it, or is it backwards that they pull the, am I correct? Is you pull the records and see if that location is on there? It's not like hypothetically, in this instance, if a phone number, it's on whether it came off of a tower that was near that location.
That is one mechanism, Your Honor, is, if we look
I don't know
at,
if that's what you're asking.
One of the questions, so yes.
I apologize, what question am I answering?
You're answering
I was just
questions.
answering the-
I thought I could help, but apparently I
No,
can't.
so my question is, Sergeant, do you give the FBI members involved in the cell phone analysis, do you give them the address where the alleged suspect would reside?
No, not typically. I wouldn't provide him that. Actually, a lot of times we're hoping he's going to be able to provide that to us.
Okay, in this case, did you provide him with that?
I can say I did not.
Okay. Nothing further.
No questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Watt, anything?
I just have a few questions. Good afternoon, Detective.
Good afternoon.
Okay, So, just so that we're clear, did you initiate contact with the FBI or did they contact you?
No, I would be safe to say I or we as a team initiated that contact.
Okay, and when you initiated that contact with them, what was the purpose of your initiating the contact with them?
To have him do a professional analysis of the call detail records and or other, geolocation information that we had.
Okay, so what you give them is the call detail records, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then from those call detail records, you asked them to create the map.
Yes,
We'll just call it the map. Would
that's
that be
correct.
fair to say?
That is very fair
And
to
then
say.
is that what you did in this case?
Yes.
And so when you give them that call record, do you direct their attention to any particular calls or telephone numbers?
I mean, they're gonna have the number of the device, right? The
Yes.
original device that we start with and or devices. So, I guess in a way, we're directing them to that number.
Okay. And then would it be fair to say that once you direct them to that number, they use that number to basically create the map? Is that correct?
I wouldn't say that's correct, ma'am. If I could, the information that he is mapping, we'll call it, is already there, right? So
Yes.
in the case of a phone device, when we receive those call detail records, all the information is provided by the phone company to us. And, merely, it might be me, I'm merely playing middleman between the phone company and the expert. So I get that information in the form of those call detail records. I give those to, in this case, Special Agent Neil Gavin, who does his analysis that, includes the mapping portion.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. You don't make the map. You don't create the map. The agent does that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Anything else, Ms. Shackelford?
Just two. So Special Agent Gavin, you indicated that you work closely with him.
Yes,
Are you on a task force?
I am. I currently assigned to the FBI's Violent Gang Task Force in Detroit, so I work with the FBI agents on a daily basis. He's on our task force as well.
Okay. And aside from call detail records that would be provided, in this instance, do you know, was Geofence data returns also provided to Special Agent Gavin?
Yes, it was.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Officer, there you are.
I just
Did
have
you-
one,
oh,
one,
go ahead.
one last question. So in your providing the geofence information to Mr. Gavin, you, at that time, didn't you tell him, when the alleged date of this homicide was?
I would assume so, yes. I'm sure we told him the offense date.
Okay, and didn't you tell him around the approximate time that you thought it occurred?
Yes, we would have.
Okay, and didn't you tell him about the different phone numbers of the individuals that you thought were suspects?
Probably through those detail records. I guess that's a yes.
So you specifically actually give Special Agent Gavin the call records and you say, look, we think it happened on this date between this time and we think these are the phones involved, right?
It doesn't really go that way. I mean, we got the dates per the records. We're going to give him dates to bracket and look at, but he's usually going to go, probably whatever the records give, he'll look at. Yes, we're going to have a time frame that we're focused on. So, he's going to do both, typically, I suppose.
So, and I'm not asking what he's going to do. I'm asking you specifically, tell him, we think it happened around 11:45 on June 22nd, 2017, right?
Okay.
Is that what you do? You give him that
I wouldn't give him
right?
such a specific. I would generally give him a date. Let's look at that day, and then we're going to look at times prior and after, of course. I don't know about an exact time.
And that the geofence you spoke of, was that for a specific time?
The geofence again is going to be for a specific maybe not an exact minute, right? It's gonna be a block of time.
And that block of time in this case, it was originally only requested for a 5-minute time period, right?
That, I don't have enough information to answer for you. I didn't do that particular request.
Okay, nothing further.
Anything else?
No, Your
Officer
Honor.
Garcia? Next witness, and you're free to go, Sergeant.
Rennie, will go.
Are we doing Officer Rennie next?
Yes.
Come on up, sir. You solemnly swear affirm the testimony you're giving this matter will be the true self, God?
I do.
And when you sit down, we're social distance, so if you want to take off the mask, you can, or you can leave it on, whatever your comfort level is.
Okay.
Hello. I'm over here. Sir, can you state your name and employment capacity for the record, please?
Michael Rennie, Sergeant, Van Buren Township Police Department.
And were you working in that capacity back in 2017?
At that time, I was a patrol officer.
Okay. And sir, do you recall being called to a scene at 45576 Hull Road?
I do.
All right. And do you know approximately what time you would have arrived at that location?
I believe it's approximately 7:40, 7:45 p.m.
And on that day, were you alone or with a partner?
I don't specifically recall. I know we were training new people. I don't recall if I was working in the capacity as an FTO or by myself.
So when you get to the location, what's the nature of that call?
Officers were originally dispatched there for a female that was located inside the residence, deceased.
And did you enter that location?
I did.
And let me ask you, sir, did you have any training with respect to evidence collection?
I do. I'm a certified evidence technician.
And you have a procedure or protocol you go through when you collect evidence?
Correct.
When you went to this location on Hull Road at that day, were you there to collect evidence?
I was.
All right. And did you follow your procedure and protocols for evidence collection?
I did.
All right. Sir, did you also, either you or while you were present, another officer take photographs of the scene as you found it upon arrival?
Yes.
Approaching with people's proposed 18 through 28. Sir, can you take a moment to just look through these photographs and tell me if you recognize what's in them?
It was inside of the location that we were dispatched to the deceased female.
Okay, and all these proposed 18 through 28, do they accurately represent the scene as you saw it on that day?
They do.
All right, move for admission of people's proposed 18 through 28.
Oh, no objection for exam purposes.
Same, Your Honor.
Same, Your
It's
Honor.
admitted for exam purposes.
So I just want to go through these with you real briefly, okay? What am I looking at in People's 18?
That was just inside the front door, I believe, as you entered the residence.
Okay, so that's what you see when you enter? Thank you. And I'll just publish as we go, Your Honor. And in People's 19, what am I looking at there?
Upon entering the residence to the left was the kitchen area, and that's right as you step inside, past the front door.
Okay, so that wall that's in the prior exhibit is kind of part of this wall that we see in the corner of that photo?
Correct.
All right, and then we see the kitchen, and then past the kitchen, what do we see back there?
A little dining area where there's a table,
All right, and that's to the left on the photo, and to the right, what would be to the right?
the living room area.
And in People's 20 is just another photo of the kitchen area,
Correct.
and in 21.
The dining area, the dining room table.
And in People's 20, do you notice that there's a cabinet open in that kitchen area?
I do.
And in People's 22, what room is that we're looking at?
That's the living room area.
Okay, and do you see the decedent in that photograph?
I do.
All right, and does it appear that she's bound in some manner?
Yes.
And what does it appear she's bound with?
A white strand of Christmas lights.
And is this what it looked like when you walked in?
Yes.
And again, in 23, is this just another angle of that living room?
Correct.
And in 24, I'm sorry, I don't mean to get in your space too much. It's
You're
okay.
fine.
In 24 and 25, what are these photos of?
24 and 25 are both closer up shots of the deceased. 24 is a little bit further away, focusing on the back side of the deceased female where her hands are bound behind her back with the Christmas lights.
And in 25, is that just a close-up of the binding?
Correct.
And in 26 and 27, are these also just photographs of the decedent as she was found?
Correct.
And last one, in 28, was there any evident injuries that you saw when you saw the decedent in that room?
There was trauma to the head.
And is this what we're looking at in 28?
Correct.
Sir, when you,
I'm sorry, I know you made a motion on 19. I don't think that you made a motion on all.
I thought she did on all of them.
Oh, did you do on all of them?
If I
My
did, Your Honor.
my misunderstanding.
if I didn't, I'd move to admit 18 through 28.
They're admitted.
Sir, while you were at that location, you indicated that you also collected some evidence?
Correct.
All right, and do you have a specific recollection of any evidence that you collected?
I've reviewed the report briefly. There were several items inside the residence that were taken for evidence purposes.
Let me ask you, did you find any evidence that a firearm had been shot in that room?
There was.
All right, and what was it?
There was an empty shell casing.
Okay, and was that taken into evidence?
It was.
And, sir, when you're picking up items and putting them in evidence, do you wear gloves?
I do.
And, did you see any marijuana in that, apartment?
There was a small amount in the apartment. I'd have to refer to the report exactly where, but there were small amounts throughout the apartment.
All right, when you say small amounts, just because that might mean different to different people, like a gram, a dime bag, or?
Roughly, I'd have to refer to the report. I don't recall. It wasn't any large amounts to my recollection.
Okay. I don't actually. I'm gonna move on. Did you also collect, let me ask you, at some point while you're at the scene, does the medical examiner come to the scene?
Yes.
And while you're, while the medical examiner's there, was the binding on the decedent's wrist, those Christmas lights removed?
Yes, by the medical examiner.
All right, and after they were removed, what did you do anything with the lights?
They were placed into a evidence bank.
And did you follow protocol when you collected those?
Yes.
And approaching, Your Honor, with People's Proposed 41, Service has gone through. What I'm looking at here. This is their packaging. Do you want me to open this and show you what's inside?
You can,
I don't want to touch it. And when you package these, can you tell me a little bit, is this packaging I'm looking at right now your packaging?
it is.
Oh, it is?
Yes, this is from when I packaged the evidence and placed it into our property
Okay,
at our station.
okay. And, oh, okay, there we go. And this is an item that you would have put into property. What's in here?
Without, if I look at the front, it would probably be no Christmas light strands from the wrists of the victim.
And you collected these according to whatever protocol you learned when you went to training to be an evidence technician?
Correct.
And from there, ultimately, were these lights sent in for forensics?
I can't stay, I would assume so, but once
Okay.
I packaged them, placed them in the property, I had no other involvement.
That makes sense. But when you put them in that bag, would you have sealed it? And would it have been put in to some sort of evidence locker or an evidence room?
Yes.
And Your Honor, I'd move for admission of People's Proposed Exhibit 41, which is the Christmas lights.
Any objections, Ms. Joseph?
None for exam purposes.
No, Your Honor.
It's fine. It's admitted.
Sir, you indicated that you had collected a small amount of marijuana that you had seen in the apartment. If you saw your report, would it help refresh your recollection
Yeah, I'd have to.
as to
refer-
what was collected?
I'd have to refer the report for that.
If you can take it, don't read off the report, just take a moment to review it and let me know when you're ready.
See that we collected a marijuana smoking pipe that was on the scene.
Okay, in addition to so you collected a shell casing, right? Christmas lights, a marijuana smoking pipe. Did you also collect what appears to be a couch cushion?
Yes,
All right, and did you notice anything of evidentiary value with respect to that couch cushion?
it appeared that there was, bullet had been fired through that couch cushion.
I don't think I have any more. I just want to see that for 1 second. Did you also collect a black iPhone with a brown case and charger?
Yes,
All right, and was that put into evidence?
yes,
And would you agree with me that you collected multiple other items that may or may not have had evidentiary value?
correct. There were several items that were collected that day.
I need 1 second. No further questions.
Ms. Joseph?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
There were some individuals who were at the scene before you arrived, right?
Correct.
And there was at least one of Curtis Meadows who called 911 and some officers as well, right?
The other officers were originally dispatched there. I was requested to make that scene to assist with evidence collecting duties and processing the scene.
How many officers were there before your arrival?
I'm not sure,
Would you say at least 2?
most likely. Probably 2 people would have been dispatched to that call originally.
Did you see other officers on scene?
I did.
Okay, how many officers about did you see on scene?
I'd have to refer to a report.
Okay. And it's your understanding that those officers had already been inside of the home before you arrived on scene, right?
Correct.
I'm not sure if you mentioned training, if what you said during direct, but did you say that you were in training or you were training someone?
It's possible that I could have been training somebody. I was a field training officer for our department. I can't recall if I had a new person with me that day or not.
And if you were training someone, would there be records that you were training someone?
Yes,
And where would those records be?
at our department.
Okay. And would you indicate that in your report?
Not necessarily, because for that I was requested just for processing, so it's what I did. They would have had no involvement in my actions at that time.
When you're training someone, do you allow them to have hands-on experience?
Not in a situation like that where it's something that you need to be trained in to collect evidence.
But you don't recall if you were training someone, so here today, you can't tell us whether you were training someone and whether that person did or did not assist in your evidence collection, right?
No, I just told you that they would not have, if I was, they would not have assisted.
You also said you don't remember if you were training someone that day, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you don't actually remember if you were training someone and if they were there, and they were there if they helped you, right?
I don't know how else I can tell you that that's not what I stated.
Okay, but your testimony is that you don't know if you were training someone that day, right?
Correct.
Okay. There was some marijuana that was found on a table near the Miss Covington's body, right?
I'd have to refer to a report for that.
Would you like to look at People's Exhibit 22? I don't know if you have those. I don't have copies, but. So taking a look at that picture, and that's a picture you took, right?
I don't believe I took the photographs.
Okay, but you saw the scene that day and it looked like that, right?
To the best of my recollection, yes.
And there's some marijuana on that table in the living room, right?
On the red table,
Yes.
I see a marijuana, what I believe is the marijuana pipe. I don't specifically see marijuana.
You don't see any marijuana there.
So there might be some ashes or residue. Nothing that I can make out.
Okay. Do you remember seeing marijuana on that date in the home?
Not specifically. I have to refer to the report. I believe there was small amounts, like I stated before.
You testified that you followed all protocols with the light. Walk me through what that means to you.
Being sure that we have our gloves on, that we're not contaminating evidence.
And I'm sorry to stop you, but if I might just ask, who is we?
The other officers that were on scene, that are evidence technicians that were also assisting in processing the scene.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry. So continue. You make sure you have gloves on. What else do you do?
The specific pieces of evidence are placed into specific types of bags based on what they may be being processed for or being taken for. And then that it remains in our possession, which I transported all evidence back to the station. I was responsible for packaging all the evidence that was listed in my report. And it's properly sealed, signed, placed into an evidence locker where it's also then secured where no one else has access to.
And who did that with you?
Did what?
Who did all of what you just outlined with you on June 23rd, 2017?
Officers Barry and Sergeant Smith were also on scene, who are evidence technicians.
And when you first arrived on scene, there were already officers there, but they weren't wearing gloves yet, were they?
I don't recall.
When did you become an evidence technician?
In 2013.
And how many cases did you serve as an evidence technician for from 2013 to 2017?
Approximately 30 to 50.
Had you been an evidence technician on any homicide cases prior to this date, June 23rd, 2017?
I have to go back and check. I've been an evidence technician on other homicide cases. I can't tell you specifically if it was if there were any of them prior to that or after or not.
Okay, so you don't know if this was or was not your first homicide case as an evidence technician?
I have to go back and check.
How many other people have access to the evidence locker?
Just our evidence property officers.
And who are they?
I'm not exactly sure. I don't have evidence access to that. Most of the department doesn't. There's Sergeant Raschke right now is the person that's in charge of our property room. Other than him, I don't know if anyone else has access or not.
Do you know who would have had access in June of 2017?
I'm not sure who was in charge of the property room at that time.
And when you say you transport evidence, how do you transport it?
It's secured in the back of my patrol vehicle. It'll be transported back to the station.
And before putting it in the back of your patrol vehicle, you indicated it's in its own separate bag, is that right?
Correct.
So did you put each strand of lights in their own separate bag?
I don't recall how they were specifically removed from her and placed in the bag. I believe that whatever was placed into that bag, the lights from her wrist were removed by the medical examiner and placed into one bag, I believe.
Okay, so all the strands were, it sounds like, it's your understanding they were placed in the same bag and treated as one, right?
I'm gonna object, Your Honor. I don't think that's what he said at all.
You just said correct,
The
so.
lights from her wrist, I believe, were not any other items. I believe the lights that were from her wrist.
Just the lights, nothing else was bagged in that same bag. It was just the lights.
Correct.
And there were multiple parts of that strand of lights, right?
I don't know if it was one or multiple or not.
Okay. Were you there when the lights were taken off of her wrist?
Yes,
And it's true that they kind of fell off of her wrist, right? They weren't tightly bound, right?
they came off easily.
Okay. And so they weren't tightly bound.
It didn't appear to be.
You testified also that there was a couch cushion that was recovered. What did you do to secure that piece of evidence?
It was placed into a larger bag.
And where was it taken after you placed it in that larger bag?
It would have been transported back to the station with all other evidence, which I packaged.
Do you know where that couch cushion is today?
Do not.
Okay. And do you know what happened to that couch cushion after you dropped it off until now?
Nope.
And it's my understanding Van Buren Police Department doesn't have that couch cushion anymore, right?
I just told you I have no idea. After I placed all the property that I packaged into the evidence locker, I have no idea of what has happened to any of that evidence.
Okay, so you leave it in the evidence locker. You're not the one who transfers it from the evidence locker to MSP, right?
Correct.
Okay. Did you ask officers or anyone else on the scene whether they touched anything?
I don't specifically recall if I did or not.
Did you secure the iPhone that was recovered?
All the items listed in my report, I packaged and secured into property.
Okay, so that includes the iPhone, right?
It includes it. I don't know which iPhone you're speaking about.
Well, there was one iPhone on the scene that
Okay.
is in your report that says that you recovered it. So that would be the iPhone I'm asking about.
Well, that's one you're asking about. All the items in my report, I packaged and secured in our evidence locker.
Do you remember actually packaging an iPhone on June 23rd, 2017 at the scene?
I don't specifically remember doing it. I had to refer to my report.
Okay, so you don't remember.
What I just stated, based off my report, those are the items that were transported by me, that were collected from the scene, secured, packaged, and entered into our property locker.
And what I just stated was that without looking at your report, you don't have any recollection sitting here today in this courtroom that you packaged an iPhone
No.
on June 23rd, 2017, right?
Correct.
Thank you. Anything else? And do you know what happened to that iPhone after it was taken from the scene?
After I took the scene, brought to the station, packaged it, and put it into property.
Yes,
No, I don't know having any items after they were put into our property.
including the iPhone, right?
Anything in my report that was placed in our property locker, I do not recall what happened to. Or don't know what happened to after it was in property.
Okay, so, and if an iPhone that was recovered from the scene, that it sounds like you packaged on June 23rd, 2017, if an iPhone that was recovered from the scene that day was deleted by mishandling of Van Buren Police Department, you have no knowledge of that. Is that right?
I didn't delete anything. It was taken to our station, packaged, and secured in our property locker.
And sir, I know that's the question you want to answer, but my question for you is, do you have knowledge that the I'm sorry, only one of us can talk at one time. My question for you is, do you have knowledge that the iPhone that was taken by you as the evidence tech that day was deleted by an individual in Van Buren Police Department?
I stated that all the property was placed into our property room by me after it was secured and packaged, put in our property. After it was placed in there, I don't know how many more times I can say this. I don't know what has occurred, happened to, where it's been taken, if it's still at our department, if it's at MSP. I don't know after it was put into our property locker, what has happened to any property involved in this case.
So your answer is no, you don't have knowledge of the iPhone being deleted.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
No questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Watt,
No questions, Your Honor.
anything else from, Sergeant Rennie?
Just briefly. So, sir, I'm going to actually let you refer to your report if it's going to refresh your recollection. Do you recall collecting more than one strand of lights?
Yes, I believe there were multiple strands in that home.
Sir, I'm going to approach, and I just want to ask you a question. So when on your report, if you mark an item as an evidence number, like item 3, item 4, item 5, is that how it's secured into evidence?
Most likely depending on how the computer system at the time was, like, we look at the bag, which you showed me earlier, I could exactly tell you.
Okay, well, let me ask what I'm getting at. Okay, I'll just cut to the chase. So do you see in item 9, you collected some Christmas lights and you said located on the wrist of the victim, right?
Correct.
Okay. Did you also collect, did you also see here in item 8, a separate listed number that you collected 3 strands of grape style lights?
Correct.
Okay, and the fact that one of them is listed as item 8 and one of them is listed item 9, does that indicate to you that they were packaged separately?
Correct.
Can I see that photograph, please? And when you go back to the station with this evidence that you've secured, packaged, and sealed, right?
Correct.
When you go back, is there like an evidence, you indicated there was like a sergeant that is in control of evidence, right?
Yes, right now we have a sergeant that's in control of our property.
And even if you don't remember who it was in 2017, as far as you can recall, would someone always have been in charge of securing evidence?
Yes.
All right, so when you go in, do you have to fill out a log or anything like that when you hand over the evidence to this person?
So it goes into an actual locker that has the key. You put it in the locker, lock it, and the key gets dropped in the locker securely where whoever has access to the actual property room, they're the only ones that can now access that property.
Understood. I have no further questions.
Anything else, Ms. Jones?
Just one. You testified that you believed the strands of lights were separate, but that was only based on what you saw in the report, right? It's not based on your own recollection of actually taking 2 separate lights and putting them in 2 separate evidence bags, right?
There were multiple lights, I remember, at the scene. The lights from her wrist were taken and put into a bag. They would not have been put into mixed with any other items at that scene.
Okay, and that's your recollection, right?
Correct.
Nothing further.
Officer Garcia, yeah, thank you, Sergeant. You're free to go. Next witness, Ms. Jessica. Go ahead.
Can you call Street?
Are you calling Sergeant
Shawn
Street?
Street?
You're needed, sir. Right.
Judge, may we have just a brief moment before testimony starts?
Yeah.
My client needs to use the restroom.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Thank you.
Sergeant, you can come up and I'll swear you in. Though solemnly swear from testimony you'll give in this matter will be the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Have a seat. He is. We're waiting on Mr. Moore, though.
Oh,
Am I free to address?
You are. So as long as you're seated and social distance, you can take it off. Do you think that this is your last witness for today, or do you have somebody if we're
I don't
finished?
have anyone lined up after him.
Is my math correct that we have 4 people left after this? Or did you change the number on me?
We've added 1 or 2, but they're like 2-second witnesses, Judge, that I have to put on.
Okay, that's fine. So we have somewhere between 4 and 6 tomorrow or something like that.
I'm looking, I actually have a list for it now. I believe it's 6, Your Honor. 2 of them will be longer witnesses.
That's fine.
But before we leave today, I'll give you an exact.
That's fine. Go ahead. He's sworn.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Can you state your name and employment capacity for me?
Yes. Detective Sergeant Shawn, S-E-A-N, Street, S-T-R-E-E-T, with the Michigan Department of State Police.
And how long have you worked with the Michigan Department of State Police?
10 years.
And sir, have you been involved in the investigation that we're here on today with respect to the homicide of Egypt Covington?
I have been, yes.
And let me ask you, are you almost a co-OIC on this case?
Yes.
And sir, I want to talk to you specifically about some of the things you've done on this case. I want to start by talking to you about video footage. Did you review any video footage?
I did, yes.
Okay, and can you tell me where that video footage was at, or where the location it came from was?
Yeah, it was from the Sicko gas station, the intersection, maybe the southwest intersection of Hall Road and Sumter Road in Van Buren Township.
Okay, and let me ask you, do you know approximately how far that gas station was from the residence on Hall Road where Miss Covington was found?
I don't have an exact number, it's several hundred feet. I don't have the exact number.
And approach with people's proposed exhibit 44. Sir, do you recognize what's in this photograph?
Yes, I do.
All right, what is it?
The Sicko gas station where the video was obtained from, property item number 14. And then just looks like a couple houses to the west is Egypt Covington's residence, as I know it.
And is this just a Google map?
It is, yeah.
Have you been to this location?
I have, yes.
Have you been to this location on multiple occasions?
I have, yes.
Okay, I'd move for admission of people's proposed exhibit 44.
No objection for exam purposes.
No objection.
Admitted for exam.
Thank you. Sergeant Street, I'm actually gonna hand you a pen.
Okay.
Can you do me, I'm gonna say do me a favor, but that's not quite what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Can you tell me, do you see Miss Covington's home in this photo?
I do. Yeah.
Do you see the driveway that would be connected to her side of the duplex?
Yeah,
Have you been in that duplex?
I have, yes.
Okay, can you just circle that area for me?
I will, yes.
Okay. All right, and so you circled this on the photograph. Would it be the driveway
East or
to
west?
the left?
Yes, to the
Okay.
left as you're looking at it from my
All right.
perspective right now.
And the Sicko gas station video that you reviewed, can you circle that gas station for me?
Yes.
Thank you. Permission to publish, Your Honor.
Yep. Thanks.
And sir, I'm gonna now show you people's proposed exhibit 31. Do you know what we're looking at there?
Yes, this is the Ciggo gas station. It'd be the north west corner of the building.
And was there anything on the northwest side of that building that was of particular interest to you?
Yes, it was the CCTV surveillance camera pointing towards Sumter and Hall Road.
All right, and does that accurately look like it looked like when you went there?
It does, yeah.
All right, move for admission of people's proposed exhibit 31.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection for Sanford.
And I know this isn't the best photograph, but Sergeant Street, can you circle for me where that surveillance camera is on this photograph?
Yes.
Thank you. Permission to publish. All right. So when you're looking through that video, did you see anything of particular interest with respect to this investigation?
I did.
All right, and can you tell me what was that?
On the timestamp on the video itself, it was around the 23:43 mark. I first noticed a blue pickup truck enter the gas station from Hall Road into a parking space. It conducted a 3-point turn and then exited all back onto Hall Road in the same direction where it appeared to come from.
Let me back up. Before, so 23:43, according to the timestamp on the video, would be 11:43 p.m.?
That's correct. I'm sorry.
All right, do you recall seeing anything on that video closer to 11:40?
I do. So after watching the first 3-point turn, I rewatched the video to see where that vehicle had come into play. And it was around 11:40 p.m. or 23:40 hours.
All right, and on the video, when it first comes into play, what did you see? What did you see on the video at 11:40?
I observed the pickup truck coming from Sumter Road from the south, so traveling north. It also turned west onto Hall Road. It looked like it was following a Chrysler 300 onto Hall Road.
All right, and did both of those vehicles then, they turned from Sumter onto Hall Road?
Yes,
Would that have been in the direction of the Covington residence?
that's correct, yes.
Okay, and then you indicated that at 23:43, you see that truck come back into view?
I did, yes.
All right, and can you tell me what you saw the truck do at 23:43?
Yes. So as it turned into the fuel station, it completed a 3-point turn, so it would have come into the gas station from Hall Road. It proceeded to park to the north of the surveillance camera. It backed up, and then it headed towards Hall Road and then exited to the west of Hall Road.
And so exited to the west of Hall Road. So when it came out of the gas station, did it go back in the direction of Miss Covington's residence?
It did, yes.
All right. And then you said you saw that truck again one more time on that surveillance camera?
I did. It was at 23:49 or 11:49 p.m.
Okay. And what did you see that vehicle do at that time?
It came from the west of the gas station, so towards Covington residence. It approached Sumter Road, and as it approached Sumter Road, it made a south travel onto Sumter Road from the fuel station. So it was south of Hall Road.
Okay. So let me ask you, are you familiar with an address of 44700 Judd Road?
I am, yes.
Okay, can you tell me why is it that you know that address?
During the investigation, Shane Lamar Evans came up as a suspect, and we identified that as his address.
And when you indicated that you saw that truck and that Chrysler 300 coming down Sumter and turning onto Hall towards Miss Covington's residence, were those two vehicles you saw coming from the direction of Judd Road?
They were both, yes, they were coming north on Sumter Road, and they both made a west turn onto Hall Road towards Covington's address.
And so on the 2343 and the 2349, the only vehicle you see now is the truck.
That's correct.
You don't see the Chrysler 300 anymore?
I do not.
Okay, and when that truck pulls out and turns onto Sumter, is it then heading in the direction of 44700 Judd Road?
Yes, at the 2349 hour. It's going back at the direction it originally came from 2340, so back towards Judd Road.
Now, let me ask you, based on your viewing of this surveillance video, did you do anything to try to identify the truck?
Yeah, after playing the video, I was able to pause it, and I could see some unique characteristics on the truck, both from the manufacturer and unique identifiers just from damage or use over the years.
And were there stills produced of that truck in that parking lot?
There were, yes.
And did you review those stills when you were trying to further investigate this vehicle?
I did, yes.
I'm going to approach with people's proposed 5A, 5B, and 5C. Do you recognize what I'm showing you in those photographs, sir?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It's the blue pickup truck that I observed from property item number 14, the camera number 17, that I observed the 3-point turn, the original at 2340, 2343, and 2349.
Okay, and these photographs that we're looking at, are these stills from that surveillance camera?
They are.
And specifically, in 5C, are we looking at a still of the vehicle, and that looks like the driver's side?
That's correct.
All right, and is that in the gas station parking lot in that photo?
That is correct.
Okay, and so this would have been around 11:43 video time?
That's correct.
Okay, and in People's 5B, are we looking at the driver's side of that vehicle?
It'd be the passenger.
Oh, I'm sorry, passenger side. It's been a long day. And is that again taken from still inside that gas station parking lot?
That's correct.
And in 5A, what are we looking at here?
That's the front of the pickup truck.
Okay, again, taken in from that gas station still when it pulled in at 11:43?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, move for admission of people's proposed 5A, 5B, and 5C.
No objection for exam purposes.
Mr. Goldstein,
Finger.
SWAT, they're admitted for exam purposes.
I don't really have an opportunity to.
Okay. So I'm going to leave those there for you because I want you to tell me. So when you're looking at those stills, what did anything pop out to you that you investigated to try and figure out where that truck came from?
Yeah, there's a lot of blue trucks out and about. I first identified it as a Dodge Ram 1500. So to further the investigation, trying to I guess discover who would drive this vehicle, I try to pinpoint make, model, year, and try to identify the color, which I was successful in this case.
Okay. And can you tell me what did you discern based on your investigation?
Yeah, so from the manufacturer standpoint of original factory equipment on the vehicle, I noticed that the headlights, there's a, can I hold this up and point
If you
to
can.
whoever I need to identify this to? But the headlamp itself, it's pointed at the very top right, and I know that from it's a third generation Dodge Ram. They stopped manufacture the rounded tail or headlights rather in 2006. In 2007 and 8, they went to the pointed headlamp. Sorry, 6, 7, and 8. So I also noticed that the badging on the front, it was consistent with where the Hemi badging would be from the factory. Right. So I knew it was a Hemi 1500. And also just below that on the driver's door, I recognized a Ram 1500 on the driver's door. Further on that, the color was significant. It's a very brilliant blue. So going through the color codes from the manufacturers, I identified it's an electric blue pearl, which were only manufactured in it was 2007 and 2008. So electric blue pearl. So I identified it at least being a 2007 or a 2008. Also, the tail lamps were significant. In 2006, they were a curved tail lamp. In 2007 and 8, the tail lamps, they were kind of raised and circular. And you can see that from the video that it's they had those distinguishing tail lamps that popped out. Also, along with unique characteristics. It was also chrome bumper for the front and chrome bumper for the back. It had upgraded rims, factory rims, four-door obviously, and the badging on the tail lamp or the tailgate was also, it said 4x4. So I knew I was looking for an either 2007 or 8 four-wheel drive, blue electric pearl Dodge Ram Hemi. And then,
Okay.
oh, sorry.
Well, I don't want you to give too much of a narrative, so I just want to ask, was there anything about 5A that gave you a clue when you were looking for that vehicle?
Yeah, there was a fog lamp that was out on the driver's side of the Ram. I noticed that was a unique characteristic. And that was, you said 5A?
I think it's the top one.
The top one, yeah. The fog lamp was out and there was a license plate mounted to the very front. In Michigan, we don't have front mounted license plates traditionally. Ohio is very, they have to have a front plate for a vehicle to operate on a roadway. And it looked, as I appeared, it looked like there is a red emblem as the Ohio plates usually have in the very front, which drew my attention that it was possibly from Toledo, or I'm sorry, Ohio.
Okay, so then did you begin looking at and investigating trucks that would match the description and the year, make, and model that you were looking for in the state of Ohio?
I did. Locating a blue electric pearl 4-door Dodge Ram Hemi, Ram 1500. I did come across one that would, the first Ram I came across.
Okay. And did you look into that Dodge Ram?
I did.
Sorry, I was just going to say, were you able to exclude it as the suspect vehicle?
I did. I located the vehicle in the Cleveland area, just west of Cleveland at a dealership. The individual had bought it at an auction. When I observed the vehicle, it was blue electric pearl. However, from the factory, there's a Hemi emblem that was on the sides of the vehicle as well as the hood itself. There was also running boards on the vehicle that were from the factory. They were factory running boards. And I also discovered that the vehicle in question was a 2-wheel drive Dodge Ram. So eliminating that as the suspect.
Right, and then, so you eliminate that. Did you ultimately find another vehicle that matched the description?
I did, yes.
Okay, and can you tell me who was that vehicle registered to, if you know?
That vehicle is registered to a Arthur Greenlee.
And
Toledo.
And after you identified that second vehicle, can you tell me what you did further in your investigation with respect to the vehicle?
Yes, so after the vehicle was ultimately located and seized and towed to Michigan, I was able to examine it myself in person, take photographs of the vehicle, and to compare it to the photographs of the known suspect vehicle we observed in the video.
All right.
To eliminate it or identify it as being our suspect.
All right, and you said you seized that vehicle. Can you tell me the circumstances under which you got possession and control of this vehicle?
Yes, got into a suspect, Arthur Richardson. Arthur Richardson advised us of who was in control of the vehicle, where the vehicle was currently parked at.
Okay, and would this have been in 2020?
It would have been
Okay.
2020.
So was Mr. Richardson actually interrogated as part of your investigation?
He was, yes.
All right, and in that investigation, did he give you permission to seize that vehicle?
He did.
Did he tell you where to find the vehicle?
He did, yes.
Okay, and so you said that vehicle was seized and brought up to Michigan?
That's correct, yes.
And when it was brought up to Michigan, did you inspect the vehicle?
I did,
Bless you.
yes.
And did you photograph the vehicle?
I did, yes.
I'm going to show you people's proposed 6A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. If you can take a moment, I'll ask you questions specifically, but just look at them and tell me if you recognize what's in those photographs.
Yes, I recognize them.
Are those photographs that were taken of the vehicle that you seized by consent from Arthur Richardson?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And some of these have call-outs on them.
Yeah.
Just identifying certain markers that you thought were relevant. Is that fair?
That's correct, yes.
So in 6A and 6B, can you tell me, oh, I'm sorry, Judge, I don't know if I moved for admission. I'd move.
You didn't.
Okay, move for admission is 6A through 6G.
No objection for exam purposes.
Same, Your Honor.
Saying Your Honor.
They're admitted for exam purposes only.
Thank you. Can you tell me what I'm looking at in 6A and 6B?
Yes, so in the original photograph, the stills obtained from the video surveillance, I noticed that a unique feature in People's Exhibit number 5B, that the the passenger's front door did not have badging as the Ram 1500, indicating to me that they were either removed from damage and repainted or some other means, but they were originally on there from the factory, but weren't on there during the time of the homicide. After examining the vehicle we have in custody at the tow yard, I identified that there was no badging Ram 1500 on the side as it appears in the video itself. I also discovered that there's a Hemi symbol, badge symbol, on the front fender as it's depicted as well in the video. So that was a unique characteristic that was stuck out to me, that the odds of another vehicle being like that are significantly low. That was just one indicator that we might have the same vehicle in question, along with the headlights as well.
Okay, well, we'll go to those. So I just want to make sure. So when you're looking at the video, you saw that it had a Hemi badge on the, what is this part of a car called?
Yeah, the passenger side front fender.
All right, so on the front fender, it had a Hemi in the video,
That's correct.
but it didn't have any badging on the door,
That's correct. The Ram 1500.
on just the passenger side.
Just the passenger.
And that was in the video that you reviewed.
That's correct.
Okay. And when you got Arthur Richardson's vehicle, was it also missing that badging from the passenger door?
The badging was removed, but the Hemi symbol was still on the front fender as it is in the video.
And Sergeant Street, did you look at the badging on the driver's side of the vehicle?
I did, yes.
And can you tell me what we're looking at 5C, 6D, and 6C?
Yes.
And what can you tell me about these photographs?
It appeared that the factory emblems were attached to the driver's door, both the Ram 1500 and the Hemi emblem, as it appears the suspect vehicle did in the video that we obtained from Sickle gas station. You can see in the, you said,
Well, let's-
describe this one.
So are we done talking about these three?
Yes,
Okay. So basically the badging was the same in the video as the truck that you seized?
that's correct.
Okay. And now you want to talk to me about, explain what we're looking at in 5E?
Yes. 5E. Or 6E.
Oh, I'm sorry, 6E.
Yeah, so the taillights that I observed in the video itself, along, like I said, the 2007, 2008, they had the tail lamps that kind of were bubbled a little bit, circular and bubbled. I observed that on the vehicle from Arthur Richardson, they were consistent with the video's tail lamps. Also, in the video, there's a point where the vehicle slows to turn onto Hall Road. The brake lamps are activated, and the third brake lamp on the very top is inoperable, as they were with Arthur Richardson's vehicle when I observed him.
And that's what we're looking at in 5E.
That's correct.
All right, can you tell me about, or I'm sorry, 6E. Can you tell me about 6F?
Yeah, that was what I described about the predominant tail lamps. Instead of them being continuous curve. They had these pronounced tail lamp, circular tail lamp items here.
And those were only in certain years and models?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and that would have been would that have covered 2007?
That, yes, 2007.
Okay, and in 6G, can you tell me what I'm looking at in 6G?
Yes. And that was this is the video snapshot of the brake lights being activated, but the third tail lamp is out. And in this controlled setting here at the tow yard, the brake lamps are activated. However, the third brake lamp is inoperable.
All right, so when you say third brake lamp, you're talking specifically about the lamp or the light that's on the back of the cab.
That's correct, yeah, the highest third lamp.
Thank you. Okay. And when you saw that, when you went and took photographs and looked through that truck in 2020, did it have an engine in it?
It did not. No.
Okay. So how did you manage to turn on brake lights or turn on lights in it?
The tow company provided me with a battery pack that I could hook up to the battery that was installed, the cables rather. And the cables were hooked up to the battery pack and turned on, which would allow the vehicle to operate electronically anyways, to illuminate lights and electronics within the vehicle.
Now, Sergeant Strait, did you participate in an investigation of defendant Shane Evans?
I did.
Okay, and do you recall off the top of your head what date that was?
That was December 6th, 2020.
I believe it was December
Or
6th.
2020, I'm sorry.
All right. Are you positive on that date?
Not 100%.
Would it refresh your memory to look at your report?
Yes.
You can't read off the report. Just take a moment to review it and let me know when you're done.
I got the date.
Okay, does that refresh your memory,
It
sir?
does.
Okay, and can you tell me what date that interview occurred?
December 16th.
Okay, and do you recall where it occurred?
Yes, it was at the Michigan State Police post in Taylor.
Okay, and when, during the course of that interrogation, did you address a phone number that would be associated with Mr. Evans?
I did, yes.
Okay, and can you tell me, first, was he Mirandized? Did you read his rights to him before you asked him all these questions?
I did, yes.
Okay, and I'm going to approach with People's Proposed 43. Is that the advice of rights form that you went over with him?
That is correct, yes.
Move for admission of People's 43.
No objection for exam purposes.
No objection.
I would reserve my objection or agreement to allow it to be introduced until I've had an opportunity to voir dire the officer.
Go ahead.
On the,
Go ahead.
do it now?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Detective Shaw, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm sorry, Street.
It's okay.
Street.
I've been called worse.
Detective Street, you've indicated that you were the officer that Mirandized Mr. Evans pursuant to his statement December the 6th.
That's correct.
Okay. And can you tell this court, where was Mr. Evans when you first came into contact with him?
He was at his house on Judd Road,
Okay,
44700 Judd Road.
Okay, so you went to his home to take the statement?
Nope, he was arrested there and brought back, is transported to the state police post in Taylor.
I guess I didn't ask the question properly.
Sorry.
When you first came into contact with him and you were about to take the statement, where were you?
I was at this, at the state police post in Taylor.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
And was he in a holding area
When I interviewed him,
Yes.
he was in the interview room, the first floor interview room.
Okay. And so when you went to Mr. Evans' house and you transported him back to the Michigan State Police, was he in custody? Had he been handcuffed or taken into custody?
He was, yes.
And was he told that he was going to be charged with an offense?
I didn't get a chance to speak with him.
Okay, so you were not the officer that transported?
No, I was not.
Okay, you were the officer that had contact with him relative to the state?
I'm sorry, relative to the
Statement.
Yes, yes.
Were you the only officer present during the time that the statement was taken?
No.
Who else was there?
Detective Sergeant James Plummer.
Okay. And so you don't know how long, I shouldn't say that. Do you know how long Mr. Evans had been in custody at the Michigan State Police Post prior to your question?
I don't have an exact time. I can refer to the report probably when he was taken into custody and what time I read him Miranda, which would be at the beginning of the interview process.
Okay, would that help you to refresh your recollection? Yes.
And I read his Miranda rights at 09:18 hours, and it would probably be in another report of the arresting officer when he was taken into custody.
Okay, but you don't have that in any of your documents?
Not in my document when he was actually arrested, no.
Okay. And so when you first come into contact with Mr. Evans, he is in a room to be interviewed?
That's correct.
Okay. And so is that when you sit down and start speaking with Mr. Evans?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Now, you have something in front of you, which you described as the advice of rights.
Yes.
Okay. And the document that you've asked the court, or the prosecution has asked to be admitted, was that document read to Mr. Evans, or did Mr. Evans read it?
Both.
Okay. And when you say both, is it your testimony that Mr. Evans was able to read that document?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And then after he read the document, you read it to him?
I believe we would have read it at the same time, if I'm not mistaken.
Is that out loud or?
Out loud, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So simultaneously, you're both reading it out loud?
Yes.
Okay. And did at any time Mr. Evans indicate to you that he wanted to talk to an attorney?
I don't recall. I don't know if he did or not.
Okay. Did at any time Mr. Evans indicate to you that he wanted to cease communicating with you?
Not that I recall.
Would there be something that would refresh your recollection as to whether Mr. Evans asked for a lawyer or asked to stop speaking with you?
Yes.
What would that be?
The video or the report.
And did Mr. Evans, what physical condition was Mr. Evans in when you took a statement? Did he have any injuries? Did he complain about being in pain?
No, I believe we offered him food and drink and a cigarette. Didn't complain of anything off the top of my head that no injuries that he would have complained about that I remember. I recall.
Did you ask whether or not he was under the influence of any intoxicating substances?
I did not ask him specifically, I don't believe.
Do you know independently if he was under the influence of any intoxicating substances?
Not that I recall.
How long did it take you to go over that form with Mr. Evans?
It usually takes approximately 3 minutes, I would say, to go over the form if they have any questions, if anybody has any questions about it.
Did Mr. Evans have questions?
I don't recall specifically.
Okay. There's a signature and some initials on the form. How did those items get on that form?
Yeah, on the form itself, I usually do this with everybody I interview under Miranda. I would ask the individual if they understood and not waived the Miranda at that point. Under every line, I have them initial that they acknowledge to me that they understand that line of the Miranda form. At the very end, there's 2 questions. At that point, they will initial and write yes or no, if you understand and if you agree to communicate and waive your right. And then there's a third line that they would write in, like their name, and they would put their name on there. And then I would fill in the rest of the information in front of them.
Is that what happened here?
Yes, I believe so, yes. I had to see the.
Thank you.
Oh, for Mr. Evans, no, do you know what, I did this is a verbal. So for the waiver itself, do you understand each of these rights was a yes? And then are you willing to give up these rights and answer my questions? I wrote verbal, so that would indicate to me that he acknowledged to me verbally that he would want to communicate, but didn't want to write it on paper.
Okay, so he didn't want to write those yes or no answers on that paper.
That's
Is that correct?
That's correct. And
Did at any time during the interview you asked him why he didn't want to do that?
if I did, I don't recall it.
Okay. What about any signatures at the bottom?
Yep, so that's my handwriting for Shane Evans. So it says read to, that's my handwriting. It says Shane Evans, read by Detective Sergeant Shawn Street, which would be mine. Everything else is filled out except for the complaint number by Detective Sergeant Plummer.
Okay, so would it be fair to say that Shane Evans didn't write anything that's on that document that would be written by you or Detective Plummer?
The SE, the
Yeah.
initials,
Yeah.
I'd have to rewatch the video to see if he put SE next to the initial or the 1 through 6 in the very beginning. But I don't recall that specifically. That doesn't look like my handwriting. So, but I couldn't tell you 100% for a fact.
Okay, and so after you've completed this document, well, I guess I already asked you that question. Did this portion where you haven't filled out the document, did the interview immediately precede that?
Yes.
So there was never a period of time where it stopped and you left and you came back or anything like that?
Oh, I'm sure he asked for a cigarette at some point. There was a couple times that we probably stepped out of the room.
Okay, what about when you were completing that document? Or I mean, the advice of rights?
I don't remember immediately after or during.
During.
Not that I recall.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Go ahead, Ms. Shackelford.
So that's the form that you completed with him, right?
Yes.
And if you watch the video, would it refresh your memory as to who wrote these SEs next to each of these rights?
It would, yeah.
Okay, and do you, could you watch that video tonight to answer more questions about that in the morning?
Absolutely.
Okay. We have more. So, let me ask you, were you involved with any call detail records, search warrants, or geofence warrants?
I was, yes.
All right. And when you get can you tell me just briefly how a geofence warrant works?
Yes. So just like a standard search warrant, you would collect your probable cause, author a search warrant affidavit for the sought information. And usually for a geofence, you would pick 4 or more coordinates of a location that's significant, like a crime scene. It would be up to the investigator to determine, I guess, what would be significant based on the facts of the case and time frame, so location and time frame. You would request those that information through Google. Google then send you back information of the unique identifiers, not specific people at this time, who would be in that geographical box or area during the time you requested and the times that you requested.
Okay, and then so after you get just these unique identifiers, but you don't have any information about who these unique identifiers go to, is that fair?
That's correct.
What do you do then?
So how I understand it is Google does not want to, they want to be as open as possible and say, hey, I want you to look at these unique identifiers, and you tell me again if these individuals are involved or not. So after they send you those, they'll give you an expanded version of unique identifiers and different routes of travel. And then you have to go back to Google and say, hey, these individuals still look like they're suspicious. I would like to know more about their information. They will send you then another expanded version of their whereabouts, their events, and they'll give you the contact information, who registered that device and what device they're on and whatnot.
And ultimately, are you an expert in the field of geofence or GPS technology?
I am not.
So when you get this information, do you try and plot it for investigative purposes?
I do.
Okay. And does that assist you in your investigation?
It does, yes.
But ultimately, would you forward that geofence data to an expert that would actually do plotting?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And do you know, was that GPS data or the Google geofence warrants or any call detail records, were they forwarded to an expert?
They were an agent out of the FBI.
All right. Is that Neil Gavin?
That is correct, yes.
So let me ask you, when you did you review geofence return that covered the property of 45576 Hall Road?
I did, yeah.
All right, and can you tell me what was significant about 45576 Hall Road?
There was a unique identifier that we first came across that looked to be in the area of that address around the 2345 mark to the 2349 mark, so 1145 to 11:49 p.m.
And did you ultimately get identifiers as to that particular geofence?
It did, yeah. It ultimately came out that it was Arthur Richardson's cellular device. He registered a cellular device in that, Arthur Richardson.
And did that assist you when you're doing your investigation with respect to this blue truck?
It did, yes.
And when we say a geofence return and unique identifiers, where's the information coming from?
So your Google device, if you have a Google-based device or a Gmail account that's registered with Google Maps, what it will do is it'll pick up what they call a handshake in the field with either a Wi-Fi router or with GPS itself. So it either tracks your GPS location, not just a tower area, but an actual GPS location within a certain radius. And then if it has a handshake, which means it attempts to connect or has an ability to connect with a Wi-Fi wireless router device, it'll do a handshake. It'll register. So it doesn't have to, you don't have to have the passcode for that router. All it has to do is just be in the area of the router for the attempted connection.
Okay. So when you say a Google, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sergeant Street, when you say a Google device, are we talking about cell phones?
A cell phone, yes.
Okay.
A cell phone, tablet, anything that would be an Android-based or Google-based cellular device.
And when you get this geofence return on the one you identified with Arthur Richardson, do you recall, do you get an email in the in the identifiers?
I do, yes.
Okay, and do you get a phone number in the identifiers?
I do, yes.
Okay. And did you get a phone number that was attached or identified with that device that was pinging,
Yes.
or for lack of a better term, in the area of the crime scene?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, do you remember that number off the top of your head?
It was 734. Remember, it ended in 7910, but I can't remember the three. 734. It's documented in my report. I can look it up there.
Would it refresh your memory?
It would.
Okay. Don't read off the report.
Yep. Yep,
Does it refresh your memory?
it does.
Did you get phone numbers associated with that device?
I did, yes.
All right, and can you tell me, what were the numbers that you got?
It was a 227 or 277 4910
4910?
or 7910. I'm sorry.
Okay. And did you also discern another phone number with respect to Arthur Richardson?
I don't recall in what aspect for Arthur Richardson. I don't recall.
Okay. Did you have databases that you have access to as an investigating officer?
Yes.
Okay, and were you able to locate any cell phone numbers for Arthur Richardson through those investigative tools?
Yes. He provided the same phone number to law enforcement on 2 separate occasions.
Okay,
Arthur Richardson.
okay. And
I'm sorry, which
Okay.
phone number?
The 419
277?
7910. Yes, that's right.
okay, I want you to review your report there about a second number that you found using your investigative tools. What was that number?
Okay. So the 419, the 206 4931 number.
Okay.
That's the one he provided twice, not the 7910 number.
The approach. I don't know if there's a,
Sure.
not really.
No, that's fine. What's your? Yeah.
That's up there.
Might come in my office.
Absolutely.
You can walk through right there.
We're coming through this book.
Thank you.